YouTube comments from a video titled, Gen Alpha Can't Read and Teachers Are FEDUP. Part 19.
At the underscore Don 4671 wrote,
The main problem definitely with me is that they are forced to read things that they just don't like nor enjoy reading about. Like with me, I absolutely hated reading because I was forced to read book that I didn't enjoy, though thankfully with me I grew out of that.
At Durward Sar 6000 wrote,
Kids can't learn what teachers don't teach. This didn't happen overnight. It's been a long program, and teachers, especially female teachers, were instrumental in bringing this about. Each generation is less educated than the last, and it's been going on for 60 plus years.
At WubZZ wrote,
One thing that helped my brother and I learn how to read coming up as Christian men was that my mother sat with us every night before bed, and we read the Bible. She would have us take turns reading so that we could get the practice, and would only ever step in when she saw us truly struggling to sound out a word name, like when we truly couldn't figure it out ourselves. Doing that helped us become some of the strongest readers in our classes.
At Fave underscore code wrote,
The parents of these kids can't even read themselves or do basic math. So they get mad at the teacher for not teaching both them and their child to read.
At Weird Wisdoms 2366 wrote,
I think they might not be able to read, but they can definitely listen. These kids are seeing that their futures are bleak, so what is even the point?
At Honest Opinions 8748 wrote,
Bruh, what TF? When I was 6, I already learned through my older brother how to read. And you tell me there are currently kids that are 4 to 6 years old and are that inept that they're nor even potty trained? WTF is even going on in the US?
At Spaceman James 855 wrote,
Americans were struggling to read before Gen Alpha. This isn't new. This is Americans noticing how dumb their countrymen are. Took you a while, but welcome to the rest of the world.
At Norman Price 1961 wrote,
Trust me, it's not just Gen Alpha. It is 90% of Americans. I work in a setting where people have to read-write as communication, and I'm not sure if most people refuse to read or simply cannot. Read a fickin' book once in a while.
At Bakerf's 4968 wrote,
Your kid should absolutely be potty trained by 4 at the latest, unless they have developmental issues. Here in Ontario, Canada, you don't go to school if you aren't potty trained, and I can't believe there are places without that rule.
TJG 813 wrote,
I didn't start my son in kindergarten until he was 6 years old. He has autism and wasn't fully potty trained until he was 5 T5, so I didn't want to send him to school in a diaper. He also didn't talk until between 5 and 6 years old. I knew he was not ready for school, and I wasn't going to subject him or his teacher to that. He's a college senior now and getting ready to apply for a master's program in computer science. He wants to create assistance technology for people with disabilities.
At AZNBGJDM wrote,
Like I said, it should be illegal to have kids without a license. If people can't prove they will be good parents before they have kids, they should be made barren. Remove their womb. Cut off their balls, whatever that, keep them from breeding. Now we're going to have a generation of stupid people, the same stupid people who voted for Trump. Stupid people supporting stupid people. Nothing I hate more than stupid people. Let's take off warning labels and put hospitals too far away for them to get to zone.
Chalkline Games wrote,
It's like everyone forgot that there was a global pandemic that shut these kids in their home to be taught by parents who aren't teachers. All while pushing learning and testing onto laptops and tablets, and people are surprised they can't read?
Theta Wapenjor wrote,
I wonder if there is something to be said about how hopeless they are. Like every Gen Z I've talked to usually have this view that all this is pointless. They think there are no jobs, rigged systems, and no social mobility. They have a sense of there being no future, which, are they wrong to feel that way?
That a guy's wrote.
Single. Mothers raising single mothers, raising single mothers. Couple that with the fact that white children are only 3 in 10 in this alpha generation, and there's your answer.
At Greg Sherrill's 4199 wrote.
Holy fucking shit. Public school is not daycare. Rest. Kids should go into kindergarten potty trained. And news flash. If you're not a piece of shit and read the most simple books to your child, they will learn to read. Reading to your children at home is the #1 indicator of academic success later on.
And Mandy Sky wrote.
What in the world is wrong with California? I have never experienced a school that didn't help with potty training. My child is severely developmentally delayed, and in Canada those kids have the same rights as neurotypical kids. But as a parent who has a more neurotypical child, who I potty trained easily at 2-3 and was go for JK, my youngest non-verbal child is 9, and we are still trying, but what I implore parents to know is potty train if you can. Your child could be sued by male staff like my disabled daughter had been. He is now in prison for 4 years, but he might never have been caught if he didn't try and sell her photos online because she didn't have any way to communicate at the time. It only derailed what little progress we had with potty training. Lockdown even made my daughter regress from what she learned in tons of ABBA, speech therapy and school, if anything, from there. School does almost nothing to modify education for severely intellectual children. I believe a lot of our products and food has poison in them that has changed the way development naturally occurs in the brain. Then you add technology and the trauma of the world around them when all they see is violence.
At Big 1430 wrote.
750 homework and at-home assignments are essential to kids' reading and math ability. If they do not have take-home assignments they parents help them with at home, they will struggle.
At Smelthaglove 2038 wrote.
Hold up. Aren't teachers supposed to be teaching them to read? And they can't. So the teachers are mad at the kids? Shouldn't they be mad at themselves for failing at their one job?
At Useridkin wrote.
All I have to say is that you want to be a teacher, you adapt for your students. We as a society regress in many ways over the years. My generation, everyone was potty trained by 2 year. Now 4 is typical. If later on 6 becomes typical, this becomes your job. You like it or not. You want the job. You adapt to it. Also, remember 20 years ago, your teachers need to have a 4-year college degree in teacher education to be licensed to teach. College degree was rare back then anyway. Now, your teachers do not, even if they do, degrees in education any kind is probably one of the easiest kind to get now. You can have an ACT 18 and get in and graduate with a teacher education degree in 4 years. And of course, those teachers don't have much availability to deal with the ever-changing world or teach.
At Terry Hill 5509 wrote.
I love that Florida teacher who was begging parents to help their OWN children. But I didn't appreciate him throwing in that, but about banning books at the end. That had nothing to do with what he was talking about. That had to do with grooming children who can read into sexual situations. Please stick to the topic. Parents who neglect their children. Don't get into a totally different topic that is totally unrelated to score a cute point.
At Becca Buenviage 9680 wrote.
I'm shocked. They used to not allow kids into kindergarten if they were not potty trained. Even my level 3 autistic child was potty trained before kindergarten. That is laziness on the parents.
Siam wrote,
Even in NICE, they don't require kids to be potty trained before kindergarten. I work for the school system here, and they put us in a meeting 2 hours talking about the importance on helping the community raise the children. That is literally not a part of the job.
At Luke Krause, Q6J wrote,
It would help if teachers taught you reading, writing, and arithmetic as opposed to gender ideologies. They're supposed to be teaching our kids history and math and science, not about imaginary genders that don't really exist.
At Justin Deep Op 19 wrote,
I hate to say this, but it's true no matter what anyone says. Fathers aren't putting their hands on their children when they need discipline. You have to understand that your father will punish you if you don't listen physically or otherwise, and the children will start respecting their parents again.
At Justice Spy 5605 wrote,
How the hell can kids not read? They always have phones in their hands. When I was 8 or 9 years old, I was playing an online game Moji called Dofus and RuneScape learning how to read better and type.
Kind DY9OV wrote,
$70 on books. He has probably spent $1,000 on classroom materials. We spend so much of our money, spend hours and hours after school. Thank you for pointing to the problem. Technology.
Cape 6 wrote,
No child left behind. AI, spell check, voice to chat, using emojis to express feelings, text abbreviations /SMS language, and just general cell phone usage at school. Kids getting it on all sides.
Thieviking wrote,
$5.50 this teacher is spittin' facts. If you see where the good schools are, it's where the parents are involved inside and outside the school. Parents need to read with their children.
At Janice Outlaw 3570 wrote,
This is just sad. My child is almost a teenage and now. But wait before he started kindergarten, I write to him every day. And before he went to bed at night. And then around 3. I work on picture reading with him and then words. Writing the alphabet with chalk, ink, sticks, and dirt. And salt with our fingers. Numbers counting. All that good stuff. It's not that hard. I have dyslexia. And my son reads above grade level. So if I can do it, what are these parents' excuses?
At AlexR604 wrote,
It takes a village to raise a child is an African proverb. As you know, Africa is the most backward continent on the planet, and you are taking advice from them.
At Mike Drop 74 wrote,
Legalized gambling, state lottery, legalized weed, and a few other things were all installed in the name of children's education. Turns out a bunch of fat cats got rich and kids left behind.
At Your Yang wrote,
OMG, I thought these problems only exist in my country, Indonesia, but turns out it happens in many countries. Here, Gen Alpha can't even read and do simple math like 2x2.
A Yuckster K8Q wrote,
This is the reason what happens when you take corporal punishment out of the home. If these kids got their ass spanked, ever get in trouble, these kids will behave better. Even the teachers should all the spank your kid.
At Perfect Sake wrote,
If my parents, who didn't graduate high school, could sit me down and teach me beyond what most parents do, anyone can. They worked full-time plus. They were chronically ill. People are just not interested in being parents. This is the reflection of what being told being a parent is the only goal we should aspire to besides working ourselves to death. When proper sex ed isn't taught. When birth control and healthcare is banned. People who have no business or even want to be parents are being forced to.
Chris Cross AS wrote,
Gen X here. Why is potty training even an option for a child? I understand children with developmental delays, but otherwise they should be day potty trained by the age of 4. If they aren't, they might need to see a DR to determine if there is a physical issue. I'm going to share my opinion of why it is so hard to potty train a lot of young children. Pull-ups. Stop using pull-ups. A pull-up is okay at night for some children, but not all day long.
Ehodagberdag wrote.
Okay, so obviously it's weird as hell if your kid is 5 and not potty trained unless they have some sort of developmental issue. But to send them into school in a dirty diaper is a whole other level of WTF.
At Zero Anonymous wrote.
Here's what we need to do. If you can't read, you shouldn't be allowed to drive. Remember, you must read signs. And the exam test, if you can't read without assistance, you shouldn't be allowed to even be at the DMV also. If you can't read, you should be locked to OUT of certain jobs that require reading.
At Jabal__ wrote.
I'm a substitute teacher, and thank God the only kids in diapers I've encountered have been severely disabled. It is not my job to pick up the slack for neglectful parents.
At Aaron Beckley 5144 wrote.
If a kid has a developmental disorder or autism, top of the list, potty training is often delayed, but will hopefully work out by 8 years, if you're lucky. Otherwise, a child should be pretty well done by 4-ish. The humiliation of publicly losing control of your body in front of other children is a serious injury to a child's confidence. Definitely alarming for the welfare of these kids.
At Letha and Coopery9N wrote.
Wow, I'm telling you, I and even my children had to know our home phone number, address, use the bathroom, spell our first and last names. What is wrong with these parents? This should be considered child abuse. That's way too old to be soiling your.
Isama wrote.
Easy answer from a millennial. Most modern women don't like nice, polite, and educated men. They find them boring. Just look at the kind of men they find attractive in their entertainment. Instead, they prefer bad boy chuds. As a result, less intelligent people are the ones having children. It's a form of irresponsible and self-destructive natural selection that works in the opposite way it should. Consequently, newer generations are dumber than the previous ones, less cultured, less educated, less respectful. And of course, they read less.
At Alan Fuzzy wrote.
I have a developmentally late child autism, ADHD, GDD, 4 years old. He's about 1 year late on following instructions in potty training, but he's advanced in learning. He's already doing large multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction, and starting to fit negative numbers. His memory is amazing and has memorized all the roads, train stations, and bus routes, and has started reading young children's books by himself. But even still, we are holding him back 1 year before kindergarten because of the potty training and putting on clothes. It's hard, but he's meeting new friends.
At AIM Truth Teller wrote.
This is why so many of us are homeschooling. We don't want our kids being influenced by badly parented kids. It's so sad. I feel for all the teachers, for real. I have teacher friends who homeschool, Pierre.
At Absagirl wrote.
How can you not have your child potty trained by 5? That's absolutely ridiculous. It's a fundamental in teaching children to be autonomous humans. Both of my children were day and night trained with minimal fuss by 24 months. Good grief. You can housebreak your dog completely in a couple of weeks. What is wrong with people?
At Dorothid 4160 wrote.
I'm horrified by what I'm hearing here. Ugh. If a child isn't potty trained before going to school, the child isn't equipped to attend school. Parents are responsible for ensuring their offsprings meet certain milestones. I can't comprehend a parent not reading to their child. Insane.
At Labrisiana 789 wrote.
Parents needs to be given a list of educational objectives the day their child is born. They still think kindergarten is just coloring and learning the names of letters. That ended 30 years ago.
Echeriterbi 8049 wrote.
When my 16-year-old was in preschool, I went online and printed out sight words. The sight words she would need to master to graduate kindergarten were printed out on a different colored cardstock, and they were all laminated. We read the easier Dr. Seuss books, and she was reading books like Green Eggs and Ham before she was in kindergarten. We read for 30 minutes a day when she was in kindergarten, and we would go to the library and participate in the reading programs over the summer. Nothing or no one is more important than my child's education, and I'll do whatever for her to succeed.
And New York Abroad wrote.
Homeschooled my son because of a school-diagnosed learning disability. The problem with reading is the connection between the brain and the ability to track sentences with the eyes is not complete until age 10. Then it will take only 24 1-hour reading sessions to learn to read. Our public school was introducing the failed whole language approach at the time. I took a book from my library and taught my son to read myself. In 1 week, he far surpassed his classmates. Public school sucks.
At Anonymous X1X wrote.
I think parents are also addicted to social media, which is why their kids aren't potty trained or have reading skills. They're letting the iPad raise their kids. My parents read to me every night. They took me to scholastic book fairs. They supported all my art projects.
At John U 1515 wrote.
Society, millennials, and older Gen Zs have utterly failed so many Gen Alphas. If Gen Alphas are struggling that bad, how will they be when they are adults with their own children? Will they raise them even worse than the way they were raised? We have all possible knowledge available at a moment's notice at AE. Yet society seems to be getting dumber because instead of reading or watching something even remotely educational, people insist on watching stupid TikTok videos or for children, just genuine slop like skibbity toilet videos and brain rot content.
At Alexave32 wrote.
Even boomers would potty train you if anything to save money. Those people are probably gonna neglect even their own health and end up in a really bad spot.
At Over the Garage WV1WN wrote.
We had a summer reading list to get some sort of certificate in 1968 before entering the 2nd grade. You had to pick a certain amount of books out of the list. I fell in love with reading during the 4th grade. Glad I did it. Turned out to be a great escape during rough periods growing up.
As she calls him, Susan wrote.
My daughter could read before she was potty trained, and now she's one of those people who has read 100 books in a year. Idiocracy, here we come. You can't.
As she calls him, Susan wrote.
My daughter is 31 when she first went to nursery school. At 2 to 3 years old, they had what they called the baby's room, which was for everyone who wasn't potty trained, and you could not leave the baby's room without being potty trained and go to the big kid's room. Well, as soon as all the people she started in the baby's room with left and went to the big kid's room, she finally understood. Potty training. I cannot imagine a 5-year-old not being potty trained. What is wrong with parents these days?
At PussyJuice95 wrote.
I'm in a massive fight with my sister currently after calling her out for her lack of effort to educate her children. Her oldest has had 6 different male figures in his life and moved to 4 different elementary schools when he was younger. But none of that is her fault, and her excuse for him not being able to read is that his dad can't read. These people will make up any excuse to avoid accountability.
At Build Momentum in Your Life wrote.
Surf generation is being created to serve the upper class because these kids one day won't be able to make it on their own without a low-wage job that directs them at every step.
At Travis Porter 2882 wrote.
They literally hired my absolute Edom as fuck literally sister as a special ed teacher. I asked AI if they could be intentionally hiring morons as a contributing factor to the agenda to make Americans illiterate, and it said yeah.
At Travis Justice 474 wrote,
So the way I see it, we blame the screen time to brain rot, and I agree, but it's screens taking away from meaningful interactions as a family. The family nucleus breaking down in combination of economic hardship without us taking accountability for our own lives.
At 303 KS wrote,
It was the failures of past decades in education and parenthood that created today's divisive political climate, with people acting as mindless crowds to the most idiotic policies and rhetoric the world has ever seen. I dread what this generation will become and what they'll end up doing in an environment that will be much worse in the future than what it even is today.
At the Wave 2118 wrote,
So let's think about this for a second. Kids can't read, write, use critical thinking, or even use the bathroom at the age of 5 or later, but they know what gender they are. Makes sense if you don't think about it.
At AQNTM EPIC wrote,
Us adults need to remain humble and self-aware as well. Even the teachers in this video have their own technology-induced issues that aren't necessarily presented on the screen. Clearly, one guy is recording himself while driving and can't even what to hop on his device until he can do so without endangering himself and others.
Yuki no Takaroto. This may sound cruel, but start failing the kids. Stop pussyfooting around language. Be blunt. And very important here. The school faculty needs to stand behind their teachers. Hold kids back if they seriously fail a year. Bring shame back, it's a good motivator. I'm not saying to bully them, but don't beat around the bush either. And, most importantly, don't dumb down the material. You're doing a disservice to kids who have the will and ability to learn. Maybe different ability levels in each school year could be considered.
At N8 Vladdy 67 wrote,
Lazy habits and no self-discipline progresses throughout the lifetime. When I was in grad school and a TA for a professor, students wouldn't turn in assignments, meet deadlines, follow the syllabus, and often came to the professor on finals week for bargains. I expected that in undergrad with fresh out high school kids, but grad students, I'm sure that it hasn't improved.
At Barbenderdle 4873 wrote,
Ask the 5 adults nearest to you right now if they've ever used algebra in their lifetime. Stop wasting the kids' time with things they'll never use. Teach real-life skills like how to change a car tire, or how to flip burgers on a grill, or any one of 1,000 different skills needed every day to survive.
At Steiner 1974 wrote,
Jesus, this is depressing. Myself and my siblings could read before we started kindergarten because my mother spent hours and hours teaching us our absies, helping us sound out words, reading us the same children's books over and over, and slowly encouraging us to be able to read them ourselves. And she had a job. These kids aren't even potty trained? That should be a call to CPS-FFS.
At Newagweeb 4049 wrote,
I'm an older Gen Z in my 20s, and I remember people would get made fun of if they couldn't read in high school. Now I've seen Gen Alpha call other kids nerds for knowing how to read.
At Naturally Kim wrote,
I am an elementary teacher of 26 years. Last year nearly took me out. I taught a combination of grades kinder-second. It was like teaching daycare. I had to literally start from the bottom. Those children were truly illiterate. They could not identify letters or numbers. Their parents took school as a joke. It made me so sick. I had never seen anything like it before. Yes, I've had children to come into my 3rd grade class with major deficiencies, but last year took deficiencies to a new low. It was sad. I needed a break from the nonsense. I am homeschooling my niece now so that when she goes back into the classroom, if she does, because homeschool is awesome, she will be way ahead of the game, and she will be organized, self-motivated, self-controlled, a collaborator, and just ready to be successful in life. I wish all kids had that someone who cared, but the reality is that they do not. The lack of concern of parents is truly neglect.
A Grey Goose wrote,
These are all things I hear my husband talking about all the time. He's a HS teacher. Has been for about 5 years, since the pandemic. It's like no one cares. If nothing changes, our future looks bleak.
A G7U, J2K wrote,
Yes, definitely. The parents TIA should be charged with neglect and have DHS called. Unless the child has diagnosed autism et al. Then that is a different matter.
A Cosmos Inclinations 3333 wrote,
My Black American son is 10 and reads 2 grade levels ahead. Yes, it is important to mention race. Gender too. It's the parents' fault because I have been battling postpartum depression since I had him. It's still around and he is 10. 2 suicide attempts and he still excels academically. I have minimal support. It is always the parents. They are dumb AFTOO. Stupid people outbred intelligent people in America a long-ass time ago. It is very frustrating sharing space with stupid people.
A Shirley Noble 685 wrote,
I was born in 1950. Right in the middle of the boomer generation, you might say. I could read when I was 2 years old. Yes, my IQ later turned out to be very high-end, but bottom line, the reason I read so early was that my parents, both parents, read to me. My son was born in 1983. I was working some very long hours, but I still found time to read to him. He would not talk until he was 2 years old. But he could read. How do I know? When he did finally talk, he did not babble. When he first used words, he said, "Mama, read that book." After that, it was full sentences with perfect syntax all the way. The benefits of reading to your child are multiple, not just the skill, but the time spent together and exposure to things outside their immediate environment. Also, IMO, when you do not teach a child to read, you deprive them of what for centuries has been one of the greatest human pleasures. In the past few years, I have done a lot of reading on my iPad simply for spatial reasons. My house is not big enough to hold 2,000 books in addition to the ones I already have. But a small flat screen is somehow never as satisfying as holding an actual book.
At Ishkabable 1028 wrote,
Sorry to say this, because I support teachers, but none of them look to their own union as a huge part of the problem. The unions support the don't need to be potty trained, talk back, zero discipline issues.
Dolly Feifei wrote,
Grow a spine. I grew up in a school that if you fell behind, you went to summer school to catch up. If you refused, you would get held back. Didn't like it as a parent? Tutor your kids or go to a different school. Your kid won't get kicked out for lack of effort, but they still had to earn their grades.
At Astria TV Truth Exposed wrote,
I'm convinced this was done on purpose. So many medications and social media to lower the attention span. More uneducated people equals less people questioning the government and people who are controlling the world. Just my conspiracy theory mind at work, lol.
At Langmua 6861 wrote,
Not exactly a professional educator, but I lead weekly youth group at my church. These kids cannot read. They struggle with deeper critical thinking as well, and with paying attention.
At Astria TV Truth Exposed wrote,
This girl I was roommates with for a year
never spent time with her son. She handed him a phone and was talking to her girlfriend all day long. He was 5, almost 6, still in diapers. Couldn't read or say a single word. It's sad.
At Astria TV Truth Exposed wrote,
Letting kids be ratioed by tablets and phones who could have guessed they would be unintelligent and can't read isn't potty-trained ect. That's not parenting, it's child abuse. They neglect their children for free time.
at Bansag wrote,
I think banning phones is silly when we have the means to create maybe another tech literacy class. Pandora's box is open and there's no closing it, which is to say, ignoring the tech in each other's hands is just teaching us to ignore how we use it. For example, I've personalized my phone with a neat wallpaper and organized apps. Just installed RetroArch, take lots of cool pics, and I still want to find other ways to use it that could enrich my day instead of waste it. These kids aren't being taught that they can get value out of some of the fastest, most versatile tech at their disposal. There's a lot more between the lines, but at the heart of the issue is we're letting our phones intimidate us.
at Shadowpaw 4489 wrote,
I said E, not raising a kid E. Sorry, but I am not going to raise a kid in this world. The way the world is, I ain't raising a kid in it. Now I will adopt a kid or two, but most likely one of the older kids, to try and make their life a bit easier.
at Carlamitynix wrote,
I have a current 5th grader. And, sweet Jesus, every damn day is a battle to get them to do literally anything. You know why it's so hard? Because they see the other parent who aren't involved, and they see a cool parent with a kid that gets to do whatever they want. Well, she doesn't make her kids read. I wish you didn't care as much. Parent your damn kids. You should be charged for neglect, for letting a kid under 13 on social media.
A Quiet Storm JLS wrote,
Potty training is not a teacher's job. That's daycare some, not all. Schools should not allow children who are not potty trained to even enroll in school at all. As for students not being able to read, write, do simple math, etc., they're constantly wanting to be on their phones and computes from the time they wake up, during school and when they get back home until the wee hours in the morning playing games, on social media and texting with their friends. Also, most have no discipline at home, and even anyone to watch over them. They come to school with horrible, I don't care, attitudes now the crack. Trend for the girls, and a handful of certain males is to go to school half-naked even when they're supposed to be in uniform. Not to mention the drugs and alcohol, etc. they bring to school. Another thing is pushing them on to the next grade even when they do not do any work or show up at school the entire school year.
at Aubrey Cummings 6506 wrote,
I know a mom like this. Literally put her 1-year-old in a crib with Moana on repeat. Baby watched Moana about 4 times per day. I quit being her friend. It was so sad.
As Stephen Palacios wrote,
It is not a community. It is a parent's responsibility to teach the child to read. What that kid did is nothing special about what he did. Teachers have always bought things for the classroom. You also have to teach guidelines from the state. It is not my responsibility that parents don't teach their kids. They are a failure as a parent.
at Blupagaluda 3961 wrote,
I'm honestly sick of hearing that the education system is broken. While that is a factor, the biggest issue is a cultural shift, social media, and parenting. It all starts at home. It's honestly why I think smartphones should be banned until 16. These kids have an addiction, so do most adults too, and the drug is the internet. It should be treated as such.
at Aubrey Cummings 6506 wrote,
I was 16 when I had my son.
My mom put a 2-hour per day screen time limit on him. I'm so thankful she did because I didn't understand at the time because I didn't grow up with electronics, but she was very wise.
F14 Megasol wrote,
Gen Alpha can't read. Looks inside, millennials are shitty parents. The broken economy, social environment, work culture, and the corrupt government are major parts of the problem. Baseball, huh?
At Aubrey Cummings 6506 wrote,
My brother was a soccer coach for years. He said he had to quit. I asked why. He said the parents. And they're insufferable and refuse to parent. It's a real shame. I remember as a kid my dad telling me when I'm his age, I'll be grateful for how I was raised. He couldn't have been more correct.
At Ida Lakeithus wrote,
The worst part is interacting online them. They can't comprehend anything they read, can't spell, and aren't using any context clues. I thought for the longest time I didn't get a good education. Right now I am positive. I've always had high reading levels. Online they make me feel gaslit very often.
At Stefan 7384 wrote,
I don't understand how a 5-year-old isn't potty trained. My son wasn't even 2.5 when we had him wearing underwear. Accidents still happened, but were rare.
At Bambino 100011 wrote,
Teachers have basically now become their social worker these days. Teachers' job is to teach subjects they were credentialed in. Parents' job is to support their kids at home.
Kelly Lee 5LT wrote,
My oldest son is 15 years old, and he complains all the time whenever teachers just give packets or worksheets. He said he wants to learn, and that is not a good way for him to learn.
At VMax97 wrote,
My shop teacher was old school. If a kid fell asleep during class or zone out, he would take a hammer and smack the underside of your desk.
At VMax97 wrote,
My mom always was in my case about my schoolwork and always nagging about every assignment and double checking with teachers, often to make sure all the work was getting done. Looking back on it, I'm glad she did because it kept my feet to the fire and focused.
At Shivag73 wrote,
This is what happens when parents stop thinking it's their responsibility to teach their children. They are our responsibility, ours, not someone's to dump them on to cover parents' shortcoming. Do better, be better, or all of these children will not be able to do anything but minimum wage, if that, as adults. If minimum wage jobs require basic math and reading skills.
At Aaron Fox 3755 wrote,
When I was young in grade school, I was told I would never be able to read a menu and a worksheet. I would need a lot of help with did get help BTW. It was appreciated very much as I wanted to learn. It was fair and true 'cause I couldn't and embarrassingly have my mom read menus for me to the point most of my life she accidentally does it still sometimes, even if I don't need it anymore. And my recall and understanding was bad. But one day, I apparently got so pissed off I worked harder, and no matter if I hated it, and now I own a shit ton of books. Mostly manga, honestly, not lying about that, but I have many other books that are not manga too. As well as read every single fucking day. Sometimes anger and spite is my motivation, and it works. Do my best to not take it out badly on someone else though, as that's just not fair. This was long sorry.
At Mrs. Sparkle wrote,
Sending a 5-year-old to school in diapers should be a CPS case of parental neglect. What state lawmaker thought that was developmentally appropriate? Some parents are too lazy and do nothing for their own children. If your child isn't reading by 2nd grade, why, oh, you have an issue.
Parents don't listen to the teacher's suggestion to help the child they birth. Even in high school they can't read. That is why they act out in school. Teachers are so sick of it that they are leaving the profession and the society is left with a generation of dummies.
At Aaron Money 7565 wrote,
These are great points. How are teachers supposed to actually teach if the students didn't learn the necessary material from the previous years/milestones? My oldest child was just passed on each year in high school. Teachers were forced to pass students, even if they were absent for half a term. My daughter had trouble focusing in class due to all the allowed disruptions. She had to relearn the needed math when she got to community college.
Ataz 1337 wrote,
Millennials are not brain rotted. We grew up without cell phones and computers. We have seen firsthand what iPads and smartphones do to the brain of young kids. The problem is parents not wanting to be a parent. They felt they needed to have kids just because they have to.
At Lunabeta 3516 wrote,
My brother, age 58, can't read. The cell phone has helped him a little because PPL text H8M and he's had to learn to sound out words. Not being able to read has been horrible for him. It's on the parents. We need to teach our children discipline. Everything in life is about discipline.
Heiheng wrote,
All your teachers' fault. You teach last generation to have happy school. You teach them to no take any responsibility. Then wonder why they can't be a good parent for Gen Alpha. Ask how your teacher union do not want to actually teach and do not want bad teacher fired. Then blame everything to the parents. You forgot those parents were your students some 20 years ago. Also, teachers keep pushing those trans ideology. Keep teaching kids to hate their country. Keep teaching white kids they are guilty of being white. You have another thing coming in the next 20 years. I can foresee there will not be a profession of teaching in 20 years, because quite easily AI do better job teaching than average Karens. Look at the kids today. You hand them iPad and let them do IXL. There is no teaching here. Why do I need to think teaching is anything relevant?